need everyone to lock in for a second because today's question might actually be kind of weird. It's not that weird, but it might fry your brain if you think about it for too long. It'll be crazy. Because this is one of those debates where halfway through you'll probably forget what reality is. Okay, here it is. It's the question. Bam, 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 Trevor. Is water wet? Wow. What? Wow. Anyway. Now, before you answer too quickly, and before you type, yeah, obviously, or no, obviously not, in the comments, just wait. Because today, I'm gonna argue something that might sound kinda wrong at first, and you'll get it later. Water is not wet. Water is not wet. Yeah, I said it. And by the end of this video, you might agree with me or not, or you think I'm kind of crazy. But either way, we're locking in. But let's start with what most people think. Most people hear the question, is water wet? And immediately go, yeah, dude, obviously, it's water. Like, it feels so obvious. Water touches things, and then things get wet. So water must be wet as well, right? But here's the problem. That logic skips a very important step. Because before we answer the question, we need to understand what the word wet actually means. So let's define it first. When something is wet, it means that it has liquid on its surface. For example, if your hands are covered in water, then your hands are wet. And if your clothes absorb water, then your clothes are wet. If the floor has water on it, then the floor is wet. Notice something important here? In every single example, something is wet because water is on it. Which raises the real question. Can water be on itself? And this is where everything starts to fall apart. Because for something to be wet, it needs to have liquid on its surface. But water is the liquid, and it doesn't have water on it because it is water. That's like asking, is fire burned? Is it burning? Is light illuminated? Is air windy? It doesn't really make sense because those things are the source of the effect. Water is what makes things wet. It doesn't become wet itself. Let me explain it like this. Imagine you jump into a pool, and when you get out, you say, I'm wet. Why? Because water is now on your skin. But when you're in the pool, was the pool wet? Or was it just water? You wouldn't look at the ocean and say, wow, the ocean is really wet today. No, you just say it's water. Because wetness is something that happens to objects when water is applied to them. Water itself doesn't need to become wet when it's already the thing doing the wetting. Ew. But now I know what some people are gonna say. They're gonna say something like, but water molecules touch each other, and so technically, each molecule is making the other molecules wet. And okay, I see what you're trying to do there, but now we've entered a dangerous territory. Because if that's the case, then everything becomes literally everything. That sounded kind of weird. But now we're saying water is wet because it touches water. And fire is on fire because it touches fire. And suddenly nothing means anything anymore. Because when you think about it like this, when we say something is wet, we're usually talking about a solid surface interacting with liquid. Wetness is a relationship between two different states, and water interacting with itself isn't the same kind of interaction. It's just existing. Let's bring it back to a normal life for a second. If someone spills water on your desk, what do you say? You say, the desk is wet. You don't say, the water is wet, because that would sound completely unnecessary. It's like saying, the water is watery, or the fire is fiery, or whatever. And yeah, we know, that's its default setting. But now here's where things get a little weird. Because this question isn't really about water, and it's mostly about how we use language. Wet is a descriptive word, and it describes a condition. And that condition only exists when something that is not liquid comes into contact with liquid. So if everything in existence was made of water, would anything be wet? Or would wetness just stop existing? Think about that for a second. Also, quick side question while we're here. If water isn't wet, then what about other liquids? Is juice wet? Is milk wet? Is lava wet? Because if you say yes, then you're saying all liquids are wet. But if all liquids are wet, then wet, the word wet, kind of just loses its meaning. Because now it doesn't describe a condition anymore. It just describes being a liquid. And that's not how we use the word. So let's bring everything together. For something to be wet, it needs a surface. It needs liquid on that surface, and it needs to be something separate from the liquid. Water doesn't meet those conditions. Water doesn't have water on it, and water doesn't become wet. Water causes it to become wet. So after all that, after the definitions, the logic, the examples, and the kind of craziness that whatever. Here's the final answer. Water is not wet. It never was, and it never needed to be. Because it just isn't. And it is simply the thing that makes everything else wet. So, next time someone asks you, is water wet? Just know I told you this. Alright, bye.